Well, thank you, Karl, for inviting us into the Save the Children, and looking forward very much to this. You've had quite a varied career, I see. So what led you into Save the Children? That's
So I
quite a
left,
change.
another change. So I think I'm fairly impatient as a kind of delivery person. I see that we can get things done quite quickly, and maybe my style didn't quite gel with the Department for Education. So I was getting a little bit frustrated in terms of the pace of change. And then I was approached by somebody about an opportunity here at Save the Children. So just you can't argue with the cause. What we do as an organisation is very special indeed. So it was just a great opportunity, and take a function which wasn't really well regarded by the rest of the organisation into one which is now delivering many things. I think it's been an interesting journey again. So last 3.5 years we've achieved an awful lot inside the organisation, and with links externally to different organisations.
So how have you accomplished that change? Because it does seem to have been quite a dramatic change in credibility and status and so on within the organisation. It does seem to have been quite a change, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think historically there'd been a fair amount of flux in terms of management. So a number of CIOs or CFOs that had been
big
there.
turnover.
So it's a bit of turnover in that respect, and a bit of underfunding really in terms of technology and the value that it can add. So part of what I generally like to do when I go new into an organisation is to hear all sides of the story, and that means investing and spending the time with the team. And not many people will do that, other than a kind of exercise in spans and layers. But I think it's important to hear from all levels, where they think the team is, what they enjoy doing, what they don't enjoy doing. And equally with the various stakeholder groups, so different parts of the business, getting to understand from them the frustrations that they've had, what levers you might be able to pull there, and whether there are any quick wins. So it's just a kind of process of going through that, and just knowing when to let go on some things, and then when to fight for others. I think it stands you in good stead. And recently been lots of conversations around shadow IT, and my view is that we can't do everything in a technology function. So know about what's going on rather than just deny it happening, because people will find a way. I think consumerization of technology, the ability to buy cloud services with a credit card or at the drop of a hat, means people can often get them done very quickly. Whether that's right or wrong or not is a different matter.
The only thing I suppose you've got to be concerned about there is data security governance, information security governance,
exactly.
Especially with GDPR coming in.
Yeah, which is why my stance is that know about what's going on rather than say no to everything. So if you can wrap a mechanism around that, say okay, yes, we have a technical assurance group, so we push requests through that, and whether that's internal to the IT team and it's on our agreed platforms, or whether that's outside of that, we will consider everything. Because at the end of the day, we're here to serve the business, and if there's a demand and a need, we'd rather do that within the parameters that we've set for the organisation than just say no, and then have to deal with the consequences later. So yeah, it's been a real journey, and I think we've delivered all sorts of things, from Office 365 migration for full Skype for Business, which runs on our help desk call centres. So when you ring in and want to change your direct debit, that's all run off of our Skype for Business contact centre as well. Through to productivity tools, where we're using Windows 10, and we're starting to look at bring your own device strategy, kind of in tune. Protective marking schemes, digital rights management, all those things that help people do their day jobs.
Right.
Through to then business applications, so Aggresso rollout for our finance system, Oracle HR system we've just implemented last year, and we're working on the global rollout of that as well. And then bespoke applications that we use in the field for collecting data on many of the programs that we deliver. So ones like household economy approach, which looks at what happens when the cost of grain, or there are different price shocks, what does that do to families in Africa? So there are unique challenges in developing applications there that need to work offline as well as online. Unique scenarios where encryption might be illegal in certain countries. So how do we deal with all those different kind of factors and facets have been quite interesting.
So there is quite an international dimension to all this.
Yeah. We work closely with Save the Children International and other member countries to deliver a portfolio of work. But where we're the subject matter experts within the UK, we'll look to develop applications that support the work that we do on the ground. And I mentioned household economy approach. We have a similar one with cost of diets. We've worked with JP Morgan on a bit of a hackathon for an app that that kind of records baby weights, those kind of things, so that we've got the analysis, and that's really a kind of key pillar of where we're going in terms of our digital experience, certainly, and our supporter engagement is to have a much richer relationship with the people that we work with, whether that's donors or supporters, and part of that story has got to be the data collection in the field, so that we're able to evidence impact and we're able to point to that when we're telling a story. Because at the end of the day, as a charity, we don't really have a physical product to sell. It's more of an emotional attachment. So that's where we're moving, is to a much more richer, rewarding relationship with our supporter base and with our donors.
So the people that you employ, and then the volunteers and the supporters, can you tell me a bit about that, the sort of culture of the organisation here, and how that works with, well, what must be a very broad base of volunteers? And
it is, yeah. So we have about just over 1,000 staff in the UK, spread across a number of sites. I think we've got 600-700 in the Farringdon office here, and then we've got other offices up in Scotland and Manchester and Wales for particular programmes that we're working on. And in terms of the mix, it's it's a diverse culture within the organisation. We have people from all over the globe working on different programmes, all sorts of different backgrounds, from public sector to private sector, and startups and large organisations. So there's a real interesting mix of people. I think at the end of the day, there's a real sense that everybody's pulling together to deliver something special, and we're at our best when there are emergencies, or whether there are particular schemes that need to deliver. So I think last year there was a decision taken that we would launch a search and rescue boat in the Mediterranean, after seeing that 5,000 people were were having difficulty crossing. So that's not something that's core business, but in terms of us as an organisation, it's a real kind of moment everybody pulls together across the whole organisation, which again makes it a very, very special place.
What sort of advice would you give now to young people coming through? Because you've got these contacts in education, so obviously you can give advice, etc. And I see you've got the interest in women in IT and the younger women in IT. What sort of advice would you give to youngsters now? Is this a good career to follow? Is this a good business to be in?
It's definitely it is a good career to be in. I mean, it can be what you want it to be, really. I think that's my advice overall, is get exposure to as many different things as you can do. So I have somebody working with me at the moment who joined me on a placement scheme whilst I was at Partnerships for Schools at university. So my advice to him then was, try as many things as you possibly can while you're here for the year, and then work out what would be interesting. He then came back as when he graduated and worked with me again, and he's still kind of exploring, but settled on the fact that he wants to do development work. And I think having given him exposure to lots of different areas, that helped him settle. I think for me the biggest challenge we've got at the moment is inspiring young people to be interested in technology, full stop. And I think the workplace is going to be a very different place in 10, 15 years.
It's a bit of a conundrum, that, isn't it? Because, I mean, they're all using the technology. As you say, there's huge consumerization.
Yeah.
And yet they don't seem to be wanting to get into the...
Yeah, something's got to be done for me around the curriculum and the content of the curriculum. I recently went into our school with a friend of mine to help with Python programming and their kind of coursework they were looking at, and give them some kind of general tips on development, as it were. And the piece of coursework that they were working on was modelling greenfly larvae. Now, for your average 14, 15-year-old child, that's not really an interesting subject, I don't imagine. So immediately they're kind of turned off by that as a subject, and they've got to re-engage. So what I've been looking at with some of our supplier base, the likes of FDM, and recently with PwC, is how can we put together a program that really inspires young people? What sparks their interest? And whether that's around artificial intelligence and machine learning and the correlation between computer science and maths and other subjects that they're studying, really to put on a program of events where we can showcase this technology, because we don't know how much automation and AI is actually going to impact the workplace. Everything from it's going to replace everybody's job to some people's job, and everything in between. So I think we need to prepare young people for the workplace and actually inspire them. And if you look at Silicon Valley, that primary schools there are already working with this sort of stuff, and we're just not here, not in the game in this country, really. So There's a bit of a personal mission of mine working with a network of other people to put on a program over the next few years to see what impact we can actually make in both inspiring young students but also teachers to want to be able to pick this up and impart that, whether that's through code clubs or embedding in the curriculum. We don't know yet, but what we do know is there's a problem that we want to tackle as an industry sector, really.
Yeah, sure. So just to come back to your role as a CIO in the organization, McKinsey did a study a little while ago saying that does the IT department really partner with the business or not? And they came up with 3 categories. One was IT as a service, the other is IT as a consultant, and the other is IT as a partner. Where would you place yourselves at the moment?
I'd like to think we're IT as a partner. We've implemented business partnering as a methodology or as an approach, rather. But yeah, it's early days within that. I think when you're on a journey, you go through a number of those different areas, and different areas of the business have different demands. So sometimes it takes a slightly different approach within that. So we have standard services, which service catalogues and platforms which are available. We then also try to do some consulting with them to help out, work out and define what the problem is, rather than jump straight to the solution. Like, we want to roll out SharePoint. Well, why do you want to roll out SharePoint? What's the need for that? And the business partnering piece is is going to be a real key going forward. I think that's where we're going to be working hand in hand.
How do you make that work? As I've seen many attempts at it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the business partner goes native and goes into the business and doesn't come back.
Well, we've had some instances of kind of project management doing that side of things. I think it's about building those relationships and being clear with all involved about what we're here to do, what we provide. And the business partners we've got have really built good relationships with the rest of the business. And that's as much about us telling our story and what we can do, as much as listening to what their requirements and needs are. And most of my job as a CIO is that kind of relationship building and networking and making sure that we're taking pragmatic stances and views. Back to my earlier points around the kind of shadow IT and saying no. If we've lost the battle, if there is a battle, if we say no, sorry, what's the question, which is the approach that you kind of often find in many organisations. So I think we're working hard to make sure that we do collaborate and we are properly in partnership, and that means that the teams are working in areas of the business. And if we look at what we've done with the digital team, as we're gearing up to launch our new digital platform in August, that's very much a multidisciplinary team. So whether you call that a scrum or a tribe or a squad or anything else, that's a real mix of digital marketing specialists from the brand and marketing team, technical specialists from our data and development team in technology, and from the core CRM data team, which sits in the brand team as well. So it's a real mix of people all come together to work together, and that's really kind of business partnering in a sense. We don't have a business partnering person dedicated to that, but we collectively took the approach to say, to make this work, we can't operate in a siloed, throw the requirement over the wall mentality. It's really got to be everybody working together. I think that's the next phase of evolution for us as a technology team, is how do we then take that approach internally, so that we're less structured in our 4 core departments, and actually maybe moving towards more of that practice-based approach, where we have practice heads that are there for the nurturing and the kind of care for the staff, and actually the resource management and everything else is handled at a more granular level, so teams become a bit more autonomous and manage their own workloads.
Oh, so that's interesting. And they'd be sort of project focused, or?
We've yet to decide. I mean, because we've got 3 core strategic pillars, for example, our world-class impact, which is the impact that we make for children on the ground, what are our programs we deliver, Cause of Millions, which is our supporter-centric program and our outstanding organisation one. So we could structure around those as strategic pillar boards.
Yeah.
We could structure around
technology. It's a business focus then, isn't it? Yeah.
We could structure ourselves around our technology platforms because they're cross-cutting, or we could structure ourselves around individual projects. So we're just looking at the different models of that, because each has their own kind of quirks and different challenges. So that's the journey we're on with that one at the moment.
So, but a big cultural change presumably needed for those sorts of approach.
I think so. I mean, traditionally it's been a PMI, Prince 2 type environment, but slowly we're moving towards much more of an agile way, where agile with a small a or large A is all dependent. And part of what I've been saying is let's scrap some of the kind of terminology. And when you mention agile out in the business, sometimes you're met with, well, that only ever works with technology projects, and we're not technology, so we're not interested. I think strip away that, and once you start talking about collaborative team working, which is essentially the same sort of thing, people then stand up and start to listen and engage a bit more. So I think we need to demystify some of the kind of terminology that's used within the industry and just make it a bit more plain English for general business folk that might not understand.
So the digital program, the digital transformation program, what's the extent, what's the scope of it, what is it doing?
So we had 3 phases. We're on phase 2 at the moment. So the first phase was around our the original platform, which was Drupal based, and we called that Brilliant Basics. So that was just about shoring up the infrastructure, making sure it's resilient, doing some search engine optimization, that kind of work, just making sure that was stable and
getting
robust.
the platform and the base solid. And
yeah, well, the platform that's in existence at the time. I mean, digital used to sit wholly within the marketing department. About 18 months ago, a decision was made to move the technology element of that into the IT team and retain the brand marketing side in marketing. So that enabled us to apply the same kind of control as we would have had around release management and testing process, for example, onto that platform. So 6 months was spent just getting that back into a shape that
you need that stability and resilience in the digital platform really to enable
yeah,
it to move on.
Exactly, particularly as we don't know when an emergency might hit, so we need the website to be responsive and work. We have big campaigns, so Christmas Jumper Day, for example, is a big time of year, believe it or not, from sort of August, September time onwards for us, culminating in everybody wearing a Christmas jumper over the Christmas period. So there's lots of demand and pressure on the website there. So that was really about making sure that was resilient and responsive at that particular time. We then moved in to procure a new set of technology for the digital platform, which we're going to be launching in August. So that's based around the Adobe Marketing Cloud.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, so we use an experience manager for content management and then analytics and target. And all of that, as I mentioned earlier, is to enable us to have a stronger connection to our supporter base. And that is, as I say, we don't have a product to sell. So this is really about our storytelling and our engagement and making it much more personalised. So rather than it being a traditional push, it can be a bit of a pull, and us thinking, actually, this is what people want to hear about. Actually, if you have an interest in education in war zones, for example, that hopefully we'll be able to serve you content that's relevant to you, rather than it just be a blanket-based approach. So that's phase 2, which we're kind of getting in that platform, and then phase 3 will be how do we take that to the next stage, and then we're working hand in hand with the fundraising and brand marketing team there.
So working with marketing and
yeah,
because I was going to ask you a few questions around the myths about digital.
Yeah.
And one of those is, of course, around digital's purely about the consumer and customer and citizen engagement, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's often the focus is, digital is external and internal just kind of carries on regardless. But that's something, in government there are a number of conversations around, user first, but it was all citizen facing. Now, in a large government department or a small government department, you've got a bunch of users which are internally focused. So if you're not applying the same sort of standards and process for me to your internal systems, you're then effectively fast becoming inefficient, and then eventually you'll be unable to serve your customers because there's no good having a laborious, lengthy process internally which you then have to interface to a website or a presence where you want to be able to react very quickly. So if you want to be in the moment with your supporters or your customers, you need to be able to have the systems and processes internally that react and support that as a mode of working.
So you've done quite a lot of work on your CRM systems.
Yes, we have a CRM system that's been here a while. So there's a core CRM team which sits in the brand and marketing team, which does looks at our propensity modelling, our support centricity approach. So we work with them to model what that's going to look like. But really, that does handle our offline and online media, and I think that's for the future. That's where there's going to be much more insight in terms of the analytics we can capture from the website and social media, through to merging that with offline as well.
So you're doing that at the moment?
That's in the plan. So the analytics.
Machine learning and so
There's been
predictive analytics?
I say propensity modelling is handled within that core team. They've done a couple of machine learning pilots within there. And again, we're looking at future strategy, what we might do with artificial intelligence, for example, how that might work together. And people don't necessarily think that charities are doing this sort of work. I think I was at
that's I noticed actually from a lot of the comments that you had in your your website, etc. You are doing a lot of what looks like quite avant-garde stuff. I mean, you're certainly talking about things like blockchain.
Yep.
And drones and AI, etc., and IoT, and it seems quite forward-looking and
it is.
Go.
Well, I think as part of the CIO role is to look at how you can add value to the business, and a part of that is keeping an eye on future trends and what's happening. Blockchain's everywhere at the moment. It's a bit like the Wild West. There's so many different flavors of it. But we do definitely see that as being a bit of a game changer in terms of the sector and what we're doing. So we're just about to kick off a pilot looking at our humanitarian passport concept,
I saw that, yes.
which is where we deploy people in emergency situations and make sure that they're pre-registered and pre-vetted. We're about to start work. If I had a piece of wood, I would touch that in the next couple of weeks as we just sign the contracts and get that going. But equally, my next meeting is around kind of cash transfers and what we might do in that scenario with blockchain. So that's definitely progressing. I think artificial intelligence is an interesting one. When we look at kind of chatbots as a basic example, where might we deploy that? Can you build empathy into a robot? Not quite sure at the moment. It might work with some kind of transactional-based approaches, but again, globally, as we look towards more shared services and more collaboration across the members, there could be something we can do there in terms of call handling for support calls across back-office functions with artificial intelligence. And then you've got the machine learning and modelling around propensity and kind of actions and activity that people take, but also modelling around kind of data and trends in the field. So. Definitely areas of interest. And Internet of Things, again, conversation with AWS the other week around Alexa, and how might we use kind of connected devices like that, again, as another engagement activity. If we're trying to engage with families, let's start using the technology and things that they have available to them in the household as part of that communications mechanism.
And your view on cloud, and cloud as an enabler and security issues around that? Presumably it is a big enabler for you.
It is, yeah. So we have a mixed model at the moment, but our core Office 365 platform, our CRM, SharePoint platforms are all either in the cloud or moving to the cloud. And we have a number of instances in AWS, which we have to run various websites and presence and services. So for us, again, that is a big enabler, a move into the model of consumption-based pricing rather than big capital outlay is again an interesting one. We have a information security officer that sits within our risk team, so separate from IT, so we're not marking our own homework. So the same rigor is applied, in terms of that validation of security and process from Ray and the ISO team is to any project that we approach. So it's approached in the same way, and it's a risk-based approach. But generally, our mode is to move as much to the cloud as we possibly can.
Well, thanks very much indeed. Very much enjoyed that, and all power to your elbow, I think.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.